water out in the filter room out here, and this is what takes care and keeps that water up to its high clarity. Very simplified system, very neat system. There's not much we have to worry about here as far as humidity either, which is good for an inside system. There's no open chambers here. Even though the returns are gravity fed back, the tops are still closed, and we exhaust any air stripping that we do as far as nitrogen gases. It's exhausted outside, so it doesn't come into this particular room. But everything's nice and compact and valved. We have doubles for everything in here. We have extra pumps. We have extra gang valves. We have a lot of extra things in case anything ever happens to this system, so nothing ever has to be down. The first pump we see here is the pump that comes from the skimmer unit, and that's all it does. Is it comes from the skimmer unit, then goes to 150 watt UV. Obviously, we don't need UV as much as other people do with the lack of sun. We still got a lot of sun that comes in the doors, and we have a little bit of green algae growing on the sides of the pond. But we still don't have the problems with the water. But as far as other things, it can also keep down the bacteria count within your pond. So there are other purposes of a UV besides algae. From the UV, then it goes into 4 returns that go into the floor. These are the 4 returns we were talking about before on the pond that feeds these eyeballs. To keep the pressure up, to get the full volume, these are 1/3 horsepower artesian pumps. To keep the full thing up, and we don't want to constrict it until we have to give it the nozzle type of spray. So it's 2-inch all the way in. There's a 2-inch inlets into the UV and out, and we also have 2-inch valves and 2-inch pipes going all the way to the walls. The only time we cut down from 1.5 inches at the very unit itself, at the very eyeball unit. So it takes 2-inch all the way out into the walls. And then behind the wall, it goes to a 1.5-inch reducer, and then it goes to a 1-inch reducer. And then the 1-inch reducer is what the eyeball sits inside. And we can change the eyeballs at any time if we want to, or we can remove them if we want to go to a higher output, and then not have the ability to direct the water. The other 2 pumps each come from the bottom drains. These again are 1/3 artesian pumps. So we have a pretty high turnover rate for this particular pond. By the way, the pond's about 19,000 gallons as far as total what the water is in that particular pond. But these are 1/3 horsepower pumps too, and these also go into 2-inch pipe. From the 2-inch pipe, they're coming right from the floor. There's no pre-filters on these things. You can see the baskets on top of these things. I have baskets in these particular reasons, so I'm not sure what the reason is for, but I've never taken these baskets out in the year because nothing goes into them again. We're in an inside pond. And I totally removed the one from the skimmer because it's not necessary it serves no purpose in my particular pond. So out of the 2 pumps through 2-inch pipe, we go into 4.4 Aquabead filters. The Aquabead filters, I realize some people maybe don't like these as far as actual biofilters, but they make a very good closed system as far as reduction in the wastes that come out of the water. So my particular purpose for these, aside from whatever I do get as far as a biofilter, I use these specifically for filtering the debris out of the water, all the koi residues that come from the pond and the detritus. And that takes and cleans it all out. These each have their own air backwash systems. And this is what I actually backwash twice a week. This is what takes me 10 minutes to do. I run them through their cycles. I use the air to agitate them. And then we dump these particular things out. It goes through a drain system that goes out and is fed down below hill on my particular property. But these systems then are just the amount of water I dump on these is how much I change twice a week. It probably results in about a 5%, between 5 to 10% water change per week is what that ends up to be as far as the total amount. This is what takes me. This is my only maintenance that's in the pond, and it's the backwashing of these filters twice a week. You can see there's two parallel systems totally different from each other. Now I take and come from these 2, and then each 2 go into their own particular chambers. These are called bioreactors. These are sold by a company in Florida. And these are coldness chambers. So the same coldness that we find in Nexus and other filters are found in these particular filters. It's the exact same stuff. Coldness is in these. And each one of these coldness chambers hold 12.5 cubic foot. So I got a total of 25 cubic foot of coldness material. I have a 100 liter per minute pump that pumps into these and keeps that media constantly moving. It's a constantly churning media. And it's a fluidized bed of calmness. Out of the top, so it's 2-inch feeds in under pressure. Then the air feeds in the top down to a column, and that's what goes and keeps the media constantly moving. I had it exhausted out here at the beginning, but I found that was not good for my health. So I took and put exhaust valves on both of these particular ones, and that's the 2 hoses we see here that go out the wall, and it's exhausted out. So all the nitrogen gases from the air stripping that's done by the Nido pump, by the air pump, as it goes through this media is fed outside, so it's not being built up inside. From the back of both of these, we have a 3-inch pipes that goes, as we saw earlier, feed back into the pond. And this is totally gravity fed back. It's not a pressurized system. If I take the tops off, water doesn't come out. The water only goes up to a certain level, which is governed by the placement of where the 3-inch is. And each of these are set so there's a proper amount of water going through them, and then out the other end, so there's no buildup of water or overflow of water. So both of these are gravity fed back, and that purpose with that again was so we can pull these pipes out of the corner, pull these back in, get rid of all these systems altogether, and maybe just have a sand filter or 2 here to convert it back into a pool system. This is my quarantine system. This is the filter room. So the filters are over here, and this is a big L-shaped room. Normally I only have this particular one set up, and I keep this one set up all the time. And actually this is where I keep my goldfish when I don't have any koi coming in the country. This particular trip I overbought a little bit, so I had to improvise. And the way I improvise is I put a bulkhead fitting through the upper pond here so it could spill over into this one at the level of the upper one. And I set up an 8-foot tank. And by taking and using a sump pump and pumping water in the top and having it circulate back through, I can use my filtration system for both of them together. And this is only a temporary situation, so when we're all done quarantining these fish, I can take this particular tank out and go back to just the single tank system. The quarantine system normally is this particular tub here. Has a 2-liter Aquabead filter, and that's all it has. Which is generally adequate for quarantine, and it's plenty adequate for goldfish. And because we don't feed the fish when they're too much when they're in quarantine, we feed them a little bit just to make sure their systems are working okay, but I don't feed too much out here, so it's more than adequate to run the system. You can also see in the upper one here, I put the mercury switch in here. I had this one particular one empty out when I had goldfish on one tank, and one of the valves got stuck on me, or didn't get stuck on me. I put it in the wrong position and did something else. So yes, even Art Human as well, and emptied the quarantine system out, and we had several $1,000s worth of goldfish dry over in the corner. So that's what led to the mercury switch, and the mercury switch is there now to protect if the water starts to go down for some reason, or I forget to open up a valve, it'll automatically shut this particular system off. So these are some of the new fish that I've just brought back. These are half of them down here. We have my biggest ones are up in the top system here, and my smaller fish are down here in the bottom. What I do is I keep them in here. I'll keep them in here for 3 to 4 weeks, probably closer to 4 weeks. This particular system has a heater on it. I have 2 titanium heat heads and one control unit. Much easier for me because I already have them inside, and the room's about 72 to 73 already. But I heat the system up to 78 degrees, and I hold it there for that whole particular time. And this is what I use as a holding temperature, where if the fish were in colder weather before, that is where generally the temperature where the KHV sort of becomes active and affects your fish if it's going to affect them at all. So far the fish have been here for a little over a week. I routinely treat, especially when I have this many fish, I routinely treat with Dimilin. I use the Dimilin because of for any type of anchor worm. Koi from Japan are generally known for having some anchor worm on them when they come out of the mud pond, so it's almost expected. Most of the time they clean them up pretty good, but I still, just to be on the safe side, I treat them with Dimilin for any anchor worm that might be left from their mud pond experience. And with generally the number of fish of this, I also treat for flukes as well. I figure the chance of one of these things having a fluke is probably, and I still need to treat the whole system, it's probably good. So I just take it just on a routine basis. I treat with superworm, and I treat with superworm over a 10-day period. and then I'll change the water after the 10-day period, and then those are the only routines I routinely for. I don't treat for bacteria or anything like that unless it's seen. I just treat for the parasites when they first come in, and then I hold them at 78 degrees for that 4-week period of time to see if anything breaks out. If everything's healthy, I'll do a scrape. And if everything looks good, I don't see any flukes or anything on the fish, I don't see any bacterial infections, and the gills look clean, then I'll start putting them, probably in this case, I'll put them half at a time and then wait a few days and put the other in so I don't overload my main system all at once. So here are a couple of the smaller fish I've gotten. Some of these fish are different breeders. I generally keep track of all the different breeders and stuff. That's part of my thing. I like to know how they develop, and I go back to some of the same breeders over again. So I generally memorize all my fish as far as where they came, how old they are, how much they've grown, and the breeders. You see a very unusual Kumanru in here. This is my first Kumanru I ever owned. There's two firsts in here for me. There's a Kumanru in here, which I've never thought I'd own a Deutz fish, but this one was kind of special. It has some special markings in it. Did well in a young fish show in Japan, and won good major awards for the Aquamono class over there. And that particular fish comes from the elder Suda. And the Sudas you may recognize. Some of the people that are viewing this tape may recognize the name. The middle Suda is the one that's so famous for doing long fins now in Japan. No long fins. I haven't gone that direction yet, but I've gotten my first Aquamono here. I also got an Asagi here, which is something a little bit different for me. This Asagi was kind of special for me. I went to Hosakai, which is known for his Asagis. Probably the most famous breeder of Asagis in Japan. And this was his best 4-year-old that he had this year. This is his best fish that he had, that he pulled from the mud ponds, and he gave me a nice deal on it. We've been friends for many years with Mr. Hosakai. I particularly like his fish, and this year I happened to buy an Asagi from him. You see a couple of Kujaku in here. The one's from Jusuke. Not everybody, he's not the mainstream breeder, so not everybody recognizes that particular name. Some of you will. But the Goromo also came from Hosakai. He also breeds Goromos and Asagis as well. As well as many other different varieties. He breeds some very good Ginrin Chagoi, and he breeds some very good Ochibas. So he's very well known in Japan and a very good breeder. Also there's a Tansho Sake here, and the smaller Kujaku that came from Kodakoi farm. That's from Hoshino-san. Here we are out in the back of my yard, and this was an important piece of equipment that I considered way up front as far as for my koi, as far as the rest of my comforts too as well. This is a 25 kW Guardian generator, electric generator. It has a Ford engine inside of it. It generates enough kilowattage for the whole house. It has a standby system that switches automatic switch over in 10 seconds once the power goes off. So as soon as the power goes off, within 10 seconds we hear this motor power up, and we hear it run out here, and we have a 500-gallon propane tank that we buried out in the back that feeds this. Since we have no gas out here, it's all electric living out here in the country. We have a 500-gallon propane, and the propane should last 4 to 5 days on 24-hour operation on 500 gallons, and hopefully if the power goes off or we have some serious weather around here, that'll be enough time we can get more energy out here. But it runs the whole house except for maybe a few high-end appliances like an oven or something, but it runs our microwave, it runs our air conditioning and heating system within it, and it also runs everything that's in the pond room, including its own heating and air conditioning system. So if it goes off in the dead of winter, we wouldn't have any problems with the temperature suddenly dropping or suddenly rising if it happens in the summer, to keep the fish at an even keel. And also this is something for peace of mind when we go on vacation. If we go on vacation and we're away, power goes off, a thunderstorm comes through, this thing automatically cuts on and powers everything that's in there in the system. There's no changes. Humidifiers, air conditionings, and all our pumps and aeration systems, quarantine systems are all powered by this generator.